We're cracking open one of the most gloriously chaotic books of the 90s, DV8 Issue 2. You've got underage super teens starting a bar fight, random cameos from Spider-Man to Spawn, and enough edgy drama to fill a year's worth of soap operas. But this isn't just about the story. We're diving into the creators behind it. Warren Ellis before Transmetropolitan, Humberto Ramos before Cliffhanger, and a whole WildStorm crew that defined an era. Plus, we'll look at images behind-the-scenes drama, sales crashes, and why this series went from hot debut to forgettable footnote in just a few years. So grab a seat at Clark's Bar, and let's dig into DV8 number 2. Back from their first mission, where they failed in capturing an alien from a mysterious organization, the Deviants, also known as DV8, visit a local superhero watering hole called Clark's, looking for a strong drink. A fight breaks out when they're refused service for being underage. A fight featuring none other than members of Fantastic Four, Stormwatch, and a few other heroes. Getting swiftly kicked out of the bar, the team are picked up by their head of security, Sideways Bob, and driven to the airport. They've got a new mission and are headed to California. Ivana, their handler, has tasked them to bring in another gang of Genactive youth calling themselves Twist. She wants the team to recruit them to become part of the Deviants. DV8 tracks down the Twist gang to an abandoned farmhouse out in the desert, where Bliss, acting as temporary leader, discusses the prospect with Menlove, the adult leader of Twist. While negotiations continue inside the farmhouse, the rest of the team size each other up. Transmorphic deviant Evo becomes infatuated with Virginia, and she coaxes him into a rendezvous by the barn. Meanwhile, Twist member Blind Lemon, who has the power of foresight, warns everyone that DV8 will kill them all very soon. As Virginia and Evo get acquainted, she begins to expose this gang's dark secret and shows Evo the barn's basement filled with malformed, severely malnourished people. Evo, enraged by this, kills Virginia. Meanwhile, Manlove and Bliss conversation takes a dark turn when he pulls a weapon on her and exposes another dark secret about Bliss' past. Enraged, she uses her abilities against him with savage consequences. As the situation rapidly devolves into what looks like a superhero standoff, DV8 members Frostbite, Powerhouse, and Sublime leap into action. Frostbite begins to absorb the ambient heat in the sand, getting ready to blast it to anyone standing in his way. Powerhouse's unique ability to gain strength off the emotions of others goes into overdrive given the shocking revelations and sudden turn of events. As DV8 begin to take down their enemies one by one, Frostbite unleashes all his power towards the farmhouse, killing every member of Twist at the same time, fulfilling Blind Lemon's prediction. Enraged, DV8 returns to New York to confront Ivana and demand why she would want such a group of messed up individuals as Twist on the team. Ivana informs them that she had no such intentions. She wanted DV8 to get rid of Twist, which was her plan all along. This issue was written by one of the creators of DV8, Warren Ellis. Ellis co-created several popular series for DC like Transmetropolitan, Global Frequency, and Red. Some of his earliest comic works include a Judge Dredd short and a Doctor Who one-pager. Just 4 years before this issue was released, Ellis was working for Marvel on the series Hellstorm, Prince of Lies, and Excalibur, and he wrote the 4-issue story arc for Thor called World Engine. Ellis then started working for DC, Caliber, and for Image Comics' WildStorm Studio, writing this title as well as taking over Stormwatch. Ellis would write issues 1 through 8 of DV8, and then Mike Helsler took over from issue 9 until the series ended at issue 32. Fellow DV8 creator and artist Humberto Ramos drew the cover and interiors of this issue. Hailing from Kaboom Comics, where he got his start in 1989, Ramos moved to DC to work on Impulse. By the mid-90s, Ramos was working on Marvel titles like Runaways, The Spectacular Spider-Man, and Amazing Spider-Man. He was also the co-creator of Silk. In 1998, Ramos co-founded the imprint Cliffhanger with comic book artist Joe Madureira and J. Scott Campbell. Colorist Wendy Fouts was making waves in the mid-90s at Image and WildStorm. She colored 17 issues of Wildcats between 1993 and 1997, and subsequently contributed vibrant palettes to titles such as Legends of the Dark Knight, Bombshells, and Sensation Comics featuring Wonder Woman. Her style helped define the bold look of the era's superhero comics. Inker Sal Regula was also making his mark with his high-energy and glossy work for WildStorm, DC, Marvel, and Aspen. He also co-inked the cover. Recently, he's resurfaced for indie projects and talked about returning to comics in a live-stream interview. His credits span superhero, sci-fi, and action across 3 decades. Fellow inker Jason Gorder also worked at DC, Marvel, Image, and Aspen. His work can be seen on series like Superman, Godfall, Grifter, Rising Stars, and G.I. Joe. He has collaborated with notable artists like Talent Caldwell and Q Cha, adding depth and definition to their pencil work. Writer Mike Heisler served as letterer for this issue. He would go on to write issues 9 through 32 after Warren Ellis moved on from the title. He also penned the Gen 13 miniseries, Gen 13 Interactive, and the one-shot Gen 13 The Unreal World. Heisler got his start in the industry in the late 1980s as a letterer, primarily for Marvel Comics. From there, he moved into writing and editing. In December 2009, Heisler was announced as the editor of a revived version of the landmark monster movie magazine, Famous Monsters of Filmland. Gigi Barbs served as the assistant editor for this issue. She primarily worked on titles like DV8, Gen 13, and Stormwatch. Meanwhile, Sarah Becker was editor for this issue. She worked on this title plus others like Gen 13, Stormwatch, Wildcats, and Team 7. Becker appeared on the 5th season of The Real World in 1996 when she was employed as an editor at WildStorm. This issue features a bar fight scene with cameo appearances by quite a few superheroes, including Aquaman, Spider-Man, Silver Surfer, Wolverine, The Thing, Superboy, Savage Dragon, Spawn, Anne O'Brien, Rapture, Vanguard, and Zealot, despite them originating from various publishers. These types of playful cameos were the norm for Image Comics when they first launched. These weren't official crossovers, simply little winks at other universes and characters. They weren't authorized, but they were not frowned upon by the comic creator community. In a final and telling nod to other heroes, the bar is called Clark's, in honor of DC's Clark Kent, aka Superman. The signage is an obvious reference. Interestingly enough, there is a diner called Clark's in New York City, specifically on 80 Clark Street in Brooklyn. No reports of superhero brawls occurring there, however. I'll admit the mid-90s were not my favorite artistic period for comics. Colors were flat, proportions were all over the place, and storylines were unnecessarily loud, violent, and bawdy. It's no surprise that Image Comics ticks off all these boxes when it comes to this issue. Image, by their own accord, leaned heavily into those tropes that seemed popular at the time. This being only the second issue of the series, the writers were still introducing us to most characters. This led to some oddly placed exposition dialogue between characters who were supposed to know each other quite well. I do like the cover by Ramos and Regla, a moody, rain-soaked scene reminiscent of Blade Runner with a neon sign for Clark's lighting our heroes. Currently, mint issues of this comic are valued at $0 at pricecharting.com, off its high of $65 in April of 2024. Comic Book Realm has issues selling for $4 and eBay for $5.79. Or you could also pick up all 33 issues and the 2 annuals for about $85. By 1996, Image Comics was feeling the same pressure as other publishers at the time. The speculation bubble had burst and comic sales dropped. Image had not done themselves any favors by building a reputation of unreliable and often erratic publishing schedules, which forced already struggling comic shops to shy away from purchasing with them on a regular basis. As far back as 1993, Image was known for late shipping comics. In the first quarter, every Image comic shipped late. By April, only 15% were being shipped on time, compared to 90% by DC and 80% by Marvel. Image compounded the issue by sometimes shipping comics out of order. This led to a loss of interest by the casual reader and frustrations with dedicated fans and retailers. Image co-founder Todd McFarlane further enraged retailers when he blamed them for over-ordering, saying he hoped that retailers who over-ordered popular titles including Spawn went bankrupt. Stress between the various creative personalities at Image was reaching a breaking point by 1996. Just 2 years earlier, co-founder Rob Liefeld founded his own separate company, Maximum Press and Extreme Studios. The other founders followed suit, and before you knew it, we had Todd McFarlane Productions, Mark Silvestri's Top Cow Production, Jim Lee's WildStorm Production, Eric Larson's Highbrow Entertainment, and Jim Valentino's Shadowline. Liefeld then proposed a merger between Extreme Studios and Top Cow. However, when Liefeld realized that Silvestri was going to reject his offer, he decided instead to try and recruit some of Top Cow's artists, including Witchblade artist Mike Turner. Meanwhile, Liefeld moved some of his titles from Image Comics to Maximum Press, escalating tensions within the company. By the summer of 1996, Jim Silvestri announced that he would leave Image Comics, citing irreconcilable differences with a then unnamed Image partner. Later that fall, LaFell did the same, just before a vote to oust him from the company. Interesting to note that Silvestri then decided to stay at Image. Lawsuits followed, and there was a 10-year period of bad blood between the companies. LaFell later reconciled with the Image partners and returned to the company as a creator, as opposed to partner, in 2007. Total sales in comics that year was roughly $300 million. This is almost half of the revenue generated just the year prior. Many comic shops closed, unable to deal with the reduced audience and the more stringent credit requirements. While broad sales numbers are available, the specifics are likely skewed. At that time, Diamond Comic Distributors was the exclusive comic shop reseller of DC, Image, Dark Horse, and Acclaim Comics for the entire year, while Heroes World Distribution was the distributor of Marvel Comics. At that time, Heroes World did not report on sales figures, so websites like Comicron have had to rely on a mix of data to acquire their numbers. So, understanding that, I do have some top-selling comics for 1996 that do not include Marvel Comics. They are DC vs. Marvel number 4, Spawn number 50, 43, and 42, and Superman The Wedding Album Collector's Edition. Of the top-selling Image comics for 1996, we have Spawn 50, 43, and 42, Gen 13, number 8, and DV8 number 1. DV8, while coming out of the gate with strong sales, continued to see declining numbers. By the third issue, their sales were down more than 50%, and after a year, they were down 78%. Sales of this title continued to drop steadily from then on. Issue 22 from September 98 did see a modest sales spike as it was shipped with 2 open-order covers, one by Joe Madureira, who was extremely popular thanks to the work on Image's Battle Chasers that summer, and one by Al Rio. Retailers often bumped orders when a superstar artist variant was available, and collectors frequently bought both covers. This wasn't enough to save the series, and it was canceled after issue 32 in September of 1999, with just over 15,000 copies sold that month. The story of DV8 continues in the Gen Active anthology series. This issue contains almost no ads outside the Image and WildStorm universe. I imagine selling comic advertising in the mid-90s was a nightmare, which is why no brands are featured. Image and WildStorm were promoting a DV8 trading card game. These were a set of 90 trading cards with art by Humberto Ramos, Richard Johnson, and many more. Another ad was a promo for Grifter issue 5. Grifter was created by artist Jim Lee and writer Brandon Choi. Grifter was a former government operative and member of the military unit Team 7 and the espionage agency International Operations, an agency with ties to DV8. There was also a promo for Hazard number 7, which would be the last issue of the series. The series centered on Hazard, Mitchell Rafferty, a man who became part of a government super soldier program. The ad for Stormwatch number 42 features the team in Japan. Stormwatch is a superhero team published by WildStorm, which later became an imprint of DC Comics. Created by Jim Lee, this first series lasted only 50 issues. Gen 13 Bootleg was another series in the popular Gen 13 series from Image and WildStorm. It featured rotating story arcs by a revolving set of Image and WildStorm artists. Finally, there was an ad for Samson Comics, boasting talent like Humberto Ramos and many others. The publisher appears to have gone out of business after only a handful of comics were produced, including Bloodbath, Pyrite, Vixen 9, and an adaptation of Samson. This week I wanted to find a comic shop called Clark's in reference to the bar in this issue. I couldn't find any, so I decided to look for one as close to the California desert as possible. If you're in the area, I recommend you check out Comic Asylum Palm Desert, California, which is located at 44829 San Pueblo Avenue in Palm Desert, California, or check them out at comicasylum.palmdesert.com. And that's DV8 number 2, peak 90s chaos with bar fights, cross-company cameos, and all the WildStorm drama you could ever want. If you had fun going down this rabbit hole with me, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. I cover comics just like this every week, the weird, the forgotten, the groundbreaking, and everything in between. Drop a comment below with your favorite wild 90s comic moment, and I'll see you in the next one. And don't forget to read the freaking comics.